In the last episode, we created a rainforest biome. So let's put up our nicest smile for the advertisers and let's play Tyto Ecology. This episode will go up in like 2 weeks. I have no idea if this entire advertising thing is still a thing then. Anyway, we also got 40 Tyto coins, and I believe it's a good idea to unlock a plant. One thing you do see in the info thing here is how many of the plants you get. There's a little number here. It's also there for animals. Also there for those. And it tells you like the base performance of this plant. Like a fern will never have fruit, so also this is how you earn Tyto coins. Every month you earn some based on how many species you have in your biome and how healthy they are. Okay, I should break that down here. We have 2 different animals. We have, for some reason, more than one kind of plant. I don't know how that happened. Anyhow, that's the income. And this will be more, and you also gain coins for the time you're away, so that's another reason why I set this to 1 year. Because if you have even this for a year, we'll get quite a few coins. Anyway, let's place a new species here. We have enough for the Amazon flame tree, which also has fruit. So this will be able to sustain animals quite well. Note that it will also interesting that this says days here, but nothing about but it's only weeks here. Anyway, it does not switch to pollinate immediately, but it should be before this time's over. Note that fruiting plants have this fruiting phase here as well. Let's place another of those. I want 2 of those. Maybe even 3. What on this little island here? Flame Tree Island. Great. Those pollinators can do everything. Like, if it's in their area, they will pollinate it when the time has come. If it's not, well, you're screwed. And I believe we can actually place another. Now, it would be tempting to unlock the ocelot, but I believe that's one of the worst ideas you can have. And the first episode is probably going to be the first episodes are mostly essentially gardening. Yeah, I mean, we could place herbivores, but I believe we should probably wait with that until those are fruiting. And just to be on the safe side, I'm going to place another batch of moths here, just in case the one we have there will fail. It's also good to have a coverage of pretty much everything. Well, we don't have this little corner here, but it's fine. Okay, let's see. Do those switch to pollinated now? Come on. And I think this should say weeks. But yeah. The year is, like on Earth, 25 weeks, and 52, not 25, 52 weeks long. Sorry about that. Okay. Also, this pillar here. I think this was more of a pillar before. And now it's kind of sawed off. We can't go into that. I wish you could use that as kind of a platform to just turn around and see all your creation. It's also something I suggested, because people said you should remove this pillar entirely. And I think that's actually, it's okay. It reminds you you're in an artificial dome, and that's something that I think is kind of important. And also, except for fish, water does not matter. Like, I could place frogs far away from the water, even in the grasslands, and they would still thrive, they would still reproduce. Whereas if you do that in real life, they would actually just die. And you can also place plants in the desert far away from the water, even though the description says they need water to survive or to thrive. Okay, this should be pollinated any moment now. you'll probably have to wait for another week. Also, yeah, precipitation does not matter here. And that's actually one of the things that I feel are okay, they're well done, because if you decide to simulate the influence of weather, you get into a very, very complex simulation. It's something that I had to study, so I know about this a lot more. If you want to look at weather and how much water is stored and so on, I mean, it would be very superficial to just say, okay, it has rained here, so those plants will grow. But if you go in and say, okay, we want to know, or we want to do this accurate, you'd have to look at the soil, you'd have to simulate, you'd have to say, okay, what kind of soil is that? How much water does it store? Or how well does it store water? And you have to look at how much water is available, how much water is stored in the soil, how much water is running off on the surface, how much water is just flowing through and going to the ground and running off there. How much is evaporating? That's actually a big deal to figure out, because those data are hard to get. And you'd have to simulate this for every single bit of this soil. Obviously, you would have more water here and less here, because this is slightly inclined, so this more water would run off here than, for example, here. And so on. It's really difficult, and you'd have to use a lot of computing time to just simulate that. Also, those should be pollinated. Yeah, you see that? They are now pollinated, so they should fruit soon enough. We could actually place some agoutis, I think. Yeah, let's try to agouti it up. At least for the sake of showing you how this works, I should probably place some agouti here. Now, the agouti is an herbivore. It can eat tough creatures, which means it's some plants are considered tough, so they are hard to eat. Like cacti are spiky, so they need certain animals that can eat those. Now, with an agouti, you get the entire group of 12. A group will... Okay, yeah, we placed 5 animals. That counts the decomposing animals as well, like the ants. Until 1.09, by the way, ants were considered to be scavengers, so they were consumers rather than decomposers. Okay, so yeah, if you have a proper animal, that's not a bug. Can I close that? Do close that, please. Okay, if I no. Okay, now it's done. So, with an animal, you have the health, you have the average hunger. Animals have to eat. Bugs don't have hunger. They don't need actually blooming plants nearby. They just need plants. Actually, they don't need anything. I've seen people putting biomes full of antils, like antil, and nothing else, and those would thrive as well. But for now, we have agoutis. So let's go down and look at them. You can either click on the group, where you will see the average data on those, the detritus level, the occupancy of the group, and how much time until they reproduce. Now, this is actually very important, because you don't want to place predators before your herbivores have reproduced. With some exceptions, like frogs used to be very prolific. I think they turned it down for 1.10. So yeah, with frogs you wanted to place a predator shortly before they would reproduce, so you'd have less of them reproducing, because they would just be a menace for every insect. Your animals will automatically start going to search for food when they reach a certain hunger, I think around 80%, plus minus something. And this group will split. So in 25 weeks, those animals will mate and will create offspring. They can now also reproduce between territories. Like before, when you had a territory that had only one creature, you would wait for it to die out because it couldn't reproduce. Now they can actually reproduce if there's another territory near enough, so they can crossbreed, which is great. Once this group reaches over 18, they will split. So they will just form two groups. I hope two similarly sized groups. And that'll be great. Okay, and anything else? Alright, you can also click on the individual animal here. So this shows you the one thing: animals will always be created mature. Like when you create a group of animals, they will always be of mature age, so they can reproduce straight away. Look at that there. Have a little cluster there. And of course, if a new animal is born, it will be exactly 0 years and 0 weeks old. Or maybe 1 week, I don't know. Okay, that's it for the jungle. So far, we're going to leave that alone. As I said, I'm not going to do that much. I think I'll go down to 6 months now. I'll not do anything off camera in this game, because I want to... I basically want to let you know everything that happens. And this is the kind of game you just boot up for a few minutes every day and look at your biome and disable the tutorial. And just see the changes happen. And that's, I think, the fun of the game. It's not a game you boot up and you play for 8 hours straight and then go to bed. You just let it do its thing. So, let's have a plains biome. Create that. Loading times will probably increase over time because your biome will gain a lot of species. We'll call this the plain forest. Yes, we're doing an awful lot of foresting today. How much time do I have? Timer. 2 minutes. Okay, that's enough for this biome. We have two different kinds of grass here. We have the blue grama grass. Grass is a bit special, by the way. I'm going to explain that quickly. I want 3 of those. This is going to be a nice cluster. Grass works different than other things. Grass increases in... Thank you. Yeah, we'll have that. Grass increases in leaf count. Let me just place some pollinators around here. The moth, it's omnipresent. Okay, so when grass reaches flowering ages, because grass is always flowering, so in the older versions people had grass basically covering everything because it wasn't eaten fast enough. And in order to combat that a bit, they made grass clusters. So when grass is reproducing, the leaf count of this cluster will increase until it reaches a cap. And once this cap is reached, it will spawn a new grass cluster somewhere else in a certain radius. And I think that is a decent way of doing it. Let's also place some milk veg here. Like one here and one there. And because we have the coins, I want some buffalo grass as well. I want grass. We want all the grass in this. I'll place the buffalo grass more over here. Do I still have an achievement I didn't cash in? I think I saved one for later. And that is why. Did I? No. Yes, I did. Nice. So even though I didn't get the achievement here, we get the stuff here. I want switchgrass as well. I think we'll place that like over here in the back. And towards zone 2. Now species won't reproduce into that zone just yet. Let's do that like this. And another over there. No, like this. Perfect. Okay, do the moths cover everything? No. So we need more moths. Once we have my energy. Yeah. We'll have to sit in here for a moment because I do need to have... I I do need to have decomposers here before I let this sit for an entire year. If I just let this happen for an entire year, it will build up detritus in spades, and it'll be bad. Also, I said the game was simulating things happening off-screen while it is off. That doesn't mean the game runs in the background. I think it just simulates what happened when you boot it up next time. So it just knows you haven't opened it for a certain amount of time, and it'll just do what happened when you open up again. Okay, is that stuff? Yeah. Okay, so we have everything covered with pollinators. This grass is also always flowering. So next up we need to save up energy. I'm going to fast forward here. This impacts your energy creation, and you see we have 44 coins, so you really don't have that much trouble with them. And it's a good way of not overwhelming the player. At least I think it's a very good way of not overwhelming the player with options and species to place and things to do. I also like having answers decomposers now. Something I should say here is that it keeps, the game keeps the species somewhat simplified, so we don't have a million ant species. I think there are 20,000 ant species or more on Earth, and the game just uses the ant as a species, not like the leafcutter ant, the carpenter ant, the red fire ant. It just uses the ant as a species, and as a rather important species in the biome, because ants come in rather large groups, so they are a great food source, and they do a whole lot. I mean, how much decomposing do they do? They're not that great as decomposers, like not as good as earthworms or mushrooms, but I believe they're fine. Also, something I should point out here is that animals don't need certain other species. Like can I have aardvarks also here, or anteaters? No. Anyway, even if I had, it would not have to have ants nearby. Like it could also eat moths or anything. All insectivores can eat all other insects. Anyway, another biome created, so let's move on to the next one. Bye!